Hello there, hello there, hello there, both YouTubes and the Twitches. How the devil are we all? I'm very well. I hope the audio is going through on both of these. It appears to be, but who fucking knows? Anyways, this is the first of what I'm hoping will be an attempt at doing the streamer thing. Now, I'm not doing this because I want to make this look a living necessarily. Although if it becomes that, who knows, whatever. But I'm currently furloughed from my job at the moment. By the way, which means I'm on 2/3 pay. It's very fucked up. If you want to go and financially help me, PayPal and Patreon below. No pressure, but it would be nice. Because I am broke as fuck right now, which is nice. But it does mean I've got a lot of time. So why not do a stream? So I'm going to be doing that. Usually be starting at 7, but I started at 7:30 today because I was watching our next trash movie for the happy hour shows that me and Christy do on trash movies. We watched Leap brackets Parkour, which is a Christian movie which is so terrible it makes Zardoz look fucking brilliant. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing Mondays to Fridays usually. I thought I'd do a Friday one to start it so I'll get the weekend off. You know, lazy motherfucker. But anyways, as you may be able to see, I managed to dig out my... Hang on, I need to show YouTube as well, don't I? Because YouTube have just got my thing on. So there we go, there's YouTube as well. Right, so I've got my International Brigade flag here. I managed to dig it out finally. It's been in storage in like my back room. I've got like a storage room. For ages. Anyway, I managed to dig the bastard out. So there it is. 15th Brigade, Brigada Internacional. No pass around. And that's the Spanish Republican flag, and the red symbol is the International Brigade symbol. So I managed to dig that out. So we've got something in the background, something cool in the background. And there is a cool story behind it. Not just obviously the fact that it's the flag of the Spanish Republic. Hang on, I need to really show people on the... Hang on, I'm dropping a lot of frames. Go away. Sorry, I need to show everyone on the thingy-majig. Hang on. No, webcam, unlock. Then I can make that bigger. Boom. Right, there's the International Brigade flag. You can see it properly there now. Away you go. How do I make it smaller again now? That's what she said. There we go. So, hang on, no, that needs to be even smaller. So that's the flag there. But there's actually an interesting story behind how that came into my possession. Seems like the wrong word considering it's like an anarchist type thing. But anyway, I picked up that flag about 15 years ago now at an event called La Fête Humanité, which is an event some people will know. It's a worldwide gathering of socialists, communists, and not even particularly radical people necessarily, because there were people from like the British Labour Party and various other social democratic parties in Europe and around the world. And it is a genuinely global event. I actually managed to briefly meet Che Guevara's daughter, Aliada, I think her name is. We didn't have a conversation because I don't speak Spanish and I don't think she speaks English. I just shook her hand and said hello, and she shook my hand and said hola, and that was it. But it was still cool because I was like, oh my god, that person came out of Che Guevara's cock. Well, that's pretty badass. Anyway, and I went there a couple of times after that as well. But the first time I went there in like 2015. No, not 15 years ago. So 2005. Sorry, I'm getting my fives mixed up. About 2005, I think it was. It was just before I went to college. And I'd always been pretty left wing and stuff. And I've been involved with a youth group, a leftist youth group here in Britain. And we organised this trip, and it was actually the first time I ever went abroad as well. No, second time. Apologies, second time I went in 2002 to Spain. Watched David Beckham score a penalty against Argentina to beat them in the World Cup. Then there was a massive fight between England and Argentina fans. Who would have seen that coming? Anyway, England won 1-0 though. It's a great game. Anyway, so yes, where was it? The second time I ever went abroad, and it was in, like I say, it's in Paris, or technically the Garden Nord, which is just like on the suburbs of Paris, in a big fuck off field. And we were actually we went there, right, and we were staying technically in a town called Blomenil, which is just on the edge of Paris, and at the time had a communist mayor, right? He was like elected as the mayor of this town, and it was a lovely, quaint, like proper, like imagine the most French thing in your head, the most French little town village thing you can imagine. It was that. It was like something out of a low. It was fucking amazing, right? I couldn't believe I got there and I was like, you know, when you go to a place and you think like it's never going to be like the stereotype looking place, because that's not real. Like people who think that Britain's like this quaint little island with the Queen, everyone knows the Queen. No, it's nothing like that, obviously, right? But we went to this little town and it was exactly what you would expect of like a little place in France. But it was just on the edge of Paris, and you could take like the metro into the Paris, and then out to the Gare du Nord and all that. And look, there's this communist mayor, right? And he let loads of people, and there was a really amazingly eclectic group of people staying like the mayoral residence, which wasn't like a particularly big house. You could probably reasonably fit about 20 people into the house comfortably to live at any one time, and there were about 100 people. There were people just strewn everywhere. It was amazing. It was like a fucking, like some sort of refugee camp situation, but with like communists smoking weed and stuff, and people fucking. It was like the last days of Rome. It was amazing. Anyway, so originally we were a kid, like I rarely left Birmingham in my fucking life at this point. So to go to this place just blew my fucking mind. And the Fête Humanité was amazing. You go there and it's like this huge stalls. I got to see the Wailers, you know, the Bob Marley backing band, them playing with Bob Marley's son as the singer was like one of the acts at the, because there's like a music bit as well, and most of it's like stalls and stuff from like all these leftist groups from around the world, and you meet some amazing people from all over the place, like countries you've barely fucking heard of in your life. I didn't realise before I went there that Kyrgyzstan was a thing. It is. It's a former Soviet republic in Central Asia. Incredible. Anyway. And yeah, and the communist mayor guy, he had like a couple of these, and he gave one to me, and so that flag was from the communist mayor of Blomenil back in the early 2000s. He gave me that, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. I think I made a small donation to like the local, there's like a local socialist youth group or whatever, because I didn't want to just take it for free, like, but even though he gave it for free. Yeah, so that's how that came into my possession, and it's been in like storage for ages. I haven't ironed it, as you may be able to tell. I don't know if you can. I don't know if my camera quality is good enough for you to really tell, but it needs ironing. But anyway, so we've now got something cool in the background to look at, and it is, as someone points out in the thing, one of. Can you feel with your mic? The volume is maxed out. Hang on, my volume's soft on YouTube. Really? It looks absolutely fine to me. Look, I'll screen share with you, and you can see. Look, my voice is literally going into the yellow. It's perfect. So I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you, Rory Cats, or the person pretending to be Rory Cats. But anyway, so yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, so I've now got a cool thing in the background for everyone. I'm dropping a lot of choppy video. Why is it doing this on fucking Twitch? You sound fine on YouTube, but the Twitch, you have an echoey sound going on. The room echo or something. Twitch is choppy too. The feedback, not criticism. No, that's fair, Tony. Yeah. I do need to sort this out, don't I? So, let's go into stream. Shall I reduce the bitrate? See if that helps. No, hang on, that's not right. Yeah, okay. Hopefully that helps now. When you're viewing this page, okay. Hopefully that helps. It's saying good now on Twitch, so hopefully that improves the situation. But who knows? Maybe it won't. I'm still doing a lot of trial and error, as you may be able to tell. Anyway. both Twitch and YouTube report that your prostate looks dodgy or sketchy. My prostate is in fine fettle. How dare you? It is far from needing a good doctor finger to sort that out. It's absolutely fine. Anyway, so on to what I was actually going to discuss in today's proceedings. 1 second. Boom shakalaka. There we go. So, first, I wanted a quick look at this story, which is all rather unfortunate. Now, before I get into this, I'm going to be talking about the situation in Gaza / Israel-Palestine thing, right? Now, this shouldn't need to be said. But unfortunately it is. A current political dialogue being what it is. Bad faith actors on both the pro-Israel side and the anti-Israel side, namely the ultra-Zionists at one end and the ultra-fascists on the other, both want to make out that Israel is synonymous with Jewish people. And that, for me, is one of the most disgustingly anti-Semitic things about this whole discussion. Outside of the obvious, like, Nazis wanting to kill Jews thing, which is worse. But in terms of just the political dialogue and the actual political discussion of this, it's one of the most anti-Semitic elements of it. Because some of the most passionate defenders of Palestinian rights and speakers against the brutality and, frankly, genocide of the Israeli state and the IDF are participating in against the Palestinians have been Jewish people, because they realise, because that connection is made from some people, that Jewish people and Israel are synonymous. They realise that it impacts them negatively, the way people view Jewish communities around the world, what Israel does, right? Even though it shouldn't, because a Jewish person in London or Chicago or fucking Sydney, Australia, or wherever, right, shouldn't feel connected in terms of the actions performed by the Israeli government and the IDF. Now note, I'm saying Israeli government and IDF. I'm not saying the Israeli people, because as with everything, there are a plethora of views within Israel. There are a plethora of views within Jewish communities around the world. And that's the point. Not every Jewish person defends Israel. Not every Jewish person defends the actions of the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Force. And neither should they, because I think what the Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Force are doing is a genocide. It's a genocide, a targeted, purposeful genocide against the Palestinian people. They are doing this precisely because they wish, because of their own territorial demands, they want to take over both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank to fulfill their, chosen people prophecy bullshit. It's religious extremism. It's absolutely religious extremism, and it was even discussed stupidly by Donald Trump that he literally brought the U.S. embassy in Israel to Jerusalem specifically to placate and to please his evangelical base, because the whole point is most Zionists around the world aren't even Jewish. They're actually Christians. They're evangelical Christians, largely in America, although in other English-speaking parts of the world, and indeed Western Europe, where they don't speak English necessarily, because they fulfill because the state of Israel and the incredibly horrific imperialist demands that Israel makes and the genocidal sweep that the Israeli government makes ties in perfectly with their the evangelical Christians' biblical Armageddon prophecy. That's all that they care about. They don't give a fuck about Jewish people. They despise Jewish people, as it happens. What they care about is furthering the advancement of the Zionist Israeli state, not the Israeli people or the Jewish people generally, the Zionist Israeli state and the IDF, because it helps fulfill their biblical Armageddon death cult prophecy. That is it. Okay? So, when I say the Israeli government and the IDF, I do not mean Israeli people, I do not mean Jewish people. I mean the Israeli government and the IDF, specifically. Okay? So anyone who wants to come at me with some bullshit about anti-Semitism can please fuck off. I'm not interested. Now, it's a delicate situation, clearly, in that region. there are a number of issues at play. There are a number of forces at play. One thing that cannot be tolerated, but unfortunately is being tolerated by all of the countries of the world, it would seem, outside of a few actors who maybe aren't doing it for the best of reasons, but whatever. What is being tolerated is currently what's happening, which is, I should say, for the last 10 days or 9 days, depending on exactly who you ask and what part of the world you're in. The Israeli government and the IDF have been bombing the shit out of Gaza. They have been murdering innocent people. They have been bulldozing houses. This is absolutely evil, exterminationist, genocidal imperialism that's taking place here. And content warning, there are going to be some unfortunate images coming up here. Some really gut-wrenching, disgusting images coming up here. I hope they don't get me flagged, but I feel they need to be seen. So we're going to take a look. These are residential areas, okay, as you can see here. Let me just, are we definitely screen sharing on both? Dropping a lot of frames, fuck off. Yes, I'm not streaming my webcam on YouTube, I know, that's fine. Because I can't, for those who don't know, I can put my camera on, but it's the shitty integrated camera, because I can't get 2 feeds out of the same proper camera. So I don't bother putting it on YouTube because the quality is not very good. So yeah, if you want to go and see my face properly and the flag and all of that, then Twitch is your place. The link is below. Anyway, so apologies for that. I'll get distracted. Right. So this is, as you can see here, right, this is from the Gaza Strip. This is a residential area. These are fucking flats. These are where people live. This is where human beings are living. And the Israeli state seems absolutely fine with just bombing residential districts. Why are they doing that exactly? They'll say they're fighting terrorism, but yet they happily bomb hospitals where there has been no reports of terrorism or terrorists. They're hospitals. People been left homeless without any electricity. I mean, look at this. These are people's fucking houses, right? Oh, you were right, Mr. Hitler. Well, that person's scum. I'm not going to defend that for a second. Fuck's sake. You see what I mean about bad faith actors on both sides. Anyway. Where was... there's a particular image of... a oh, God. There's a particular image of a kid there. This is, again, let's say the content warning. I mean, look at this. This is, I mean, I think that one's from Syria, if I recall. But these are the kind of images coming out of Gaza recently. It's absolutely disgusting. And again, look, yeah, this is the obvious imperialism of the Israeli state. If you look at how Palestine has been shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, this is absolutely imperialism and it's absolutely genocide, and we as the left need to stand against it completely and utterly. I mean, just abysmal. And Western governments are happy to go along with this. We're happy to sell them weapons. This is again a residential district, and you see bombs going off there. Absolutely unspeakable, horrific terror. And it's absolutely terrorism. Let's have a look at this. Yeah. Where were the terrorists there exactly, Mr. Netanyahu? Where were they? Now, I'm not going to say much more about this, other than to say, unless ultimately America holds the key here. America needs to do something about this. America could stop this. It's not going to. It's not going to. And that hurts me, because the millions more are going to die, and eventually Palestine will be erased from the map. It's ironic, isn't it? that Israel, which seeks to try and smear any of its opponents by saying you want to wipe Israel off the map, is literally trying to do that to both Palestine and the Palestinian people. It's pretty despicable. America could stop it, they're not going to. Now, a weird transition, but hopefully one that makes a certain sense. Now, I wanted to bring that up, not in the context of Joe Biden specifically, but of the American political class, right? Yeah, good evening, Joe. Shut up. Now, I need to put the desktop audio on, because YouTube didn't even hear him say good evening. He did, though. YouTube has Kevin a 55-second delay to censor him. Really? Am I on a 55-second delay? Am I on a delay? What? Sorry, YouTube chat. Can I type penis in the chat, and we'll see how long that takes to see if I'm on. Someone said I'm on a 55-second delay, which would be weird. Yeah, and then we're going to look at Joe Biden. Now, I mentioned the Israeli genocidal bombardment of the Gaza Strip, and then say America can and should do something about that. And I know they're not going to, because the entire political class in America is in agreement that Israel is awesome. You need to give lots of money to Israel, regardless of its absolutely horrific human rights record. And the fact that it secretly proliferated nuclear weapons and still lies about having nuclear weapons, which is interesting. So, when everything I'm about to say, in, I suppose, sort of defence of Joe Biden and why you probably should vote for Joe Biden, needs to be taken in the context that I don't for a second think that Joe Biden is going to do anything about that or any number of other things, because I don't really think that the American political class is really in control of the military-industrial complex at this point. It goes too far beyond that. It's not that big a delay, Kev, but YouTube is the past compared to Twitch. I don't fucking know. Slight delay from Twitch to YouTube. Oh, I don't know. Look, it's happening or it's not. I don't know. Apologies, everyone. I probably need to get a line fed up so I can have my actual internet directly connected in this room. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think the American political class are necessarily in control of all of this. And I don't think Joe Biden's necessarily going to sort that out. So when I say that you should vote for Joe Biden, when I argue that, I'm not arguing that from a perspective of me thinking Joe Biden is an anti-imperialist, or that Joe Biden is fucking awesome, or that Joe Biden's going to introduce socialism to America, because he isn't. Okay? He's not going to do any of those cool things. But what he will do is stop absolute fascism from taking over in the immediate step, if he becomes president, right? Which is a really genuinely great act of harm reduction that you as an American citizen can do. I get the argument that people don't necessarily want to engage in bourgeois parliamentarianism. I understand where that's coming from. What I will say is that on this occasion, I think it's more important than on most. This is arguably the most important election since that of Abraham Lincoln's second term. In terms of the fate of America and where it goes as a nation, and therefore where world democracy goes, because America is a much more powerful nation now than it was then, and has much more sway on the world than it did then. Not that it was without sway at that time, but it clearly wasn't like the global hegemonic superpower then. So, in terms of harm reduction, if you're saying to yourself, you don't want to vote because Joe Biden's an arsehole, and Joe Biden is an arsehole, okay? Make no mistakes about that. I'm going to try and bite my tongue as much as possible between now and November, because I don't want to put out negative shit that might maybe make people think not to vote for the guy, because I think it's really important to stop fascism, at least in the short term. But know this, Joe Biden's a prick. I don't actually really want him to become president. I think he's an arse. He's a creepy, nasty individual. But compared to the only actual alternative, he's some sort of fucking saintly figure. Because Donald Trump is human filth. He's the kind of thing... I literally have more respect for the dog mess that you have to scrape off the bottom of your shoe when you step in it That's how much I think Donald Trump is fucking evil. Okay? So, don't get it twisted. Don't think that I'm some sort of Joe Biden superfan. Don't think that I'm a Joe Biden. Even a Joe Biden. I'm okay with Joe Biden. I'm not. But there are two options. Either Donald Trump continues and fascism reigns in America. Like, if Donald Trump has another term, I don't think you get anything like a fair election next time. So I don't know that you can ever really change anything without revolution, which the American people have shown themselves incapable or unwilling to do. Which, again, is not unusual for the Western world, but there we go. Yeah. What was the other point I was going to make? I really need to write some stuff down, don't I? I need notes. Because I do forget. I get distracted by chat, and I forget. Anyway. So yeah, I'm going to play through and make a few pointed comments here and there, because I think there are some really interesting distinctions between Joe Biden and Donald Trump revealed in Joe Biden's acceptance speech at the Democratic convention, which was held remotely because big crowds aren't a great idea. So they're having a remote thing where there's no clapping or cheering or anything because there's no crowd. He's just in a room talking. But anyway, and I thought it was a good speech. But I don't want people to think that like I'm fanning for or standing Joe Biden, because I'm not. I just think if we want socialism, we need first to at least stop fascism. I think that's a wise approach to things. And if you're thinking of not voting for the guy, I think you'll vote. And I understand why you don't want to. I wouldn't want to vote for the guy. But I think you're thinking about voting in the wrong way. I think you're thinking about it on like a very individual level, which I get. Like, you don't want to vote for the creepy old fucking guy with a racist past who like pets disabled people like they're fucking animals or something. I get that, right? But you're not, by voting for a person, you're not endorsing everything they do or say. You're not responsible for every policy they then enact, okay? What you could do is think about it in a much more collective sense, which I think is important as socialists to do. Which is that there are a lot of minorities whose lives are going to be made significantly worse by another Donald Trump presidency, which they may get better or worse. Who knows what Biden will actually do, or whether Kamala Harris will actually be basically the de facto president. Who knows? But their lives will be significantly less shit under Biden-Harris than they will under Trump-Pence, assuming Pence is going to be the vice president. Who knows? And so what you could do there is a genuine act of allyship to marginalised, downtrodden people, which I think is important. Now, I'm not going to shame anyone for doing whatever. Ultimately, your own conscience has to decide, but I think it's important. So we're going to take a look at Joe Biden's speech. I think there are some important distinctions. He makes some good points. And I'm going to point out where I think it's important to note that the things he is saying, regardless of whether you think he's necessarily being honest with it, because, they're politicians, they're going to lie, of course. But note the points at which Biden says some shit that Donald Trump definitely wouldn't, that Donald Trump would stand against. I think that's important. So we're going to take a look at Joe Biden's DNC speech and see what we think.
Good evening.
Evening.
Ella Baker, a giant of the civil rights movement, left us with this wisdom: give people light, and they will find the way. Give people light. Those are words for our time. The current president has cloaked American darkness for much too long. Too much anger, too much fear, too much division. Here and now, I give you my word. If you entrust me with the presidency, I will draw on the best of us, not the worst. I'll be an ally of the light, not the darkness. It's time for us, for we the people, to come together. And make no mistake, united we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America.
Now that's pretty straightforward, down the middle, right? Down the middle, a thing you'd expect him to say, okay? Nothing, it's essentially little more than pablum, but it's, you have to start off with some shit like that. Where are we? Apologies. Yes.
We'll choose hope over fear, facts over fiction, fairness over privilege.
Fairness over privilege is an interesting phrase.
I'm a proud Democrat, and I'll be proud to carry the banner of our party into the general election. So it's with great honor and humility I accept this nomination for President of the United States of America.
Standard opening.
But while I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. I'll work hard for those who didn't support me, as hard for them as I did for those who did vote for me. That's the job of a president, to represent all of us, not just our base or our party. This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment.
Again, that's sort of pablum, but you get what he's pushing at them. Because Donald Trump does only care about his base. He's never cared about anyone. Well, he doesn't really care about them specifically. He cares about them continuing to support him, and that's it. He only cares about himself, basically.
It's a moment that calls for hope and light and love. Hope for our future. Light to see our way forward, and love for one another. America isn't just a collection of clashing interests of red states or blue states. We're so much bigger than that. We're so much better than that.
And again, I think that's an interesting point to point out. Well, it's sort of typical politician way of approaching that. You have to try and do Big Ten. We're not red states and blue states thing. But I think it's interesting to point that out because Donald Trump literally said that they had like a national COVID plan until they realised it was only going to affect Democratic-run states, so they decided to just let those people die. Apparently that makes America great again.
Nearly a century ago, Franklin Roosevelt pledged a New Deal in a time of massive unemployment, uncertainty, and fear. Stricken by a disease, stricken by a virus, FDR insisted that he would recover and prevail, and he believed America could as well. And he did, and we can as well.
And no, he's actually putting on a really competent performance here, which you shouldn't need to say, although compared to Donald Trump, I've seen fucking toddlers who make more sense. But I think there's a certain amount of ableism that goes into some of the criticism of Biden when he slurs his words and stuff like that, because he's got like a speech impediment, hasn't he? There's a speech problem he's had since he was a kid or something. So he doesn't always necessarily sound enormously coherent or assertive, or not coherent, but his diction isn't always perfect. And so for people to say, oh, he's senile, is I think really disgusting. Especially compared to Donald Trump, who literally the other day started going on about seals, and in a thing, and not Navy seals, the animals, just in a press conference. Just, the fuck, this man's lost his marbles. Like, he's actually genuinely mentally deteriorating. Which, again, these are both men in their 70s. You'd expect a certain amount of, like, it's going to take the edge off you. Age doesn't do your brain good, as such. But if Donald Trump's fans are saying that Joe Biden is senile or whatever, then God knows what Donald Trump is. But I think his performance in this, Joe Biden's performance in this, is actually really good. Even I've seen Trump supporters saying he was a good performance. He actually looked vaguely like a proper president should, or whatever.
This campaign isn't just about winning votes. It's about winning the heart and, yes, the soul of America. Winning it for the generous among us, not the selfish. Winning it for workers who keep this country going, not just the privileged few at the top. Winning it for those communities who have known the injustice of a knee on the neck. For all the young people.
That's a really, really good phrase. It alludes obviously to an awful thing, but it's a really important phrase to use. Known a knee on the neck, because obviously that's a direct reference to the murder of George Floyd, but also much more broadly to the fact that a lot of people in America, be they black people, Hispanic, Native American, women to an extent, albeit that again there are intersections. Intersectionality is important. A lot of those people have felt the knee of basically rich white guys on their neck for far too long. So it's a great allusion to the actual Black Lives Matter thing and to a much broader system of oppression that needs to be stopped. Something that Donald Trump would definitely not say. He might mention knee on the neck, but he'd probably do it as a joke because he's evil.
People have known only America being rising inequity and shrinking opportunity. They deserve the experience of America's promise. They deserve to experience it in full. You know, no generation ever knows what history will ask of it. All we can ever know is whether we're ready when that moment arrives. And now history has delivered us to one of the most difficult moments America's ever faced. Four historic crises, all at the same time. A perfect storm. The worst pandemic in over 100 years. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The most compelling call for racial justice since the 60s. And the undeniable realities and just the accelerating threats of climate change. So the question
again, would Donald Trump even mention climate change? No, I don't think he will, and I don't think he would, because you know that's evil commie shit or whatever. And so do I think Biden's necessarily going to do everything he says? No, but his plan. His climate change plan is a great deal more radical than I thought it was going to be. There's quite a lot of money being pumped into it. Is it enough? I don't know. I'm sort of nihilistic about it. I don't know that there's a lot humans can do at this point. I think we fucked it beyond repair, or beyond full repair. I don't think it's like apocalyptic. I'm not going Alex Jones with you, but it's still, I think, a lot better than virtually anyone else has done. So that's something, you know.
For us is simple. Are we ready? I believe we are. We must be. You know, all elections are important. But we know in our bones this one is more consequential. As many have said, America is at an inflection point, a time of real peril, but also of extraordinary possibilities. We can choose a path of becoming angrier, less hopeful, more divided, a path of shadow and suspicion, or we can choose a different path and together take this chance to heal, to reform, to unite, a path of hope and light. This is a life-changing election.
And I think that's a genuinely important point to make. It is a life-changing election. And it is a genuine choosing the fork in the road thing, you know, which way do you go type election, where there's no, regardless of where you go, there's no like continuation of some sort of previous norm. However much there are a lot of liberal people who think that Joe Biden will be a return to America's kind of safe post-Soviet, post-Cold War kind of liberal consensus or whatever thing, it's not possible anymore. No, you can't go back to that. That period in time is dead. The world is a new thing. It's either you go with Donald Trump and you go towards fascism, or you pull back from fascism and go to, I mean, question mark, who knows? I'm not suggesting Joe Biden's going to do anything particularly radical or brilliant, but by comparison, there's no real decision to be made here, is there? It seems to me. As leftists, there's no choice but to hold your nose and vote for this creep. Basically. I don't know what else to say.
This will determine what America is going to look like for a long, long time. Character is on the ballot. Compassion is on the ballot. Decency, science, democracy, they're all on the ballot. Who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and most importantly, who we want to be, that's all on the ballot. And the choice could not be more clear. No rhetoric is needed. Just judge this president on the facts. 5 million Americans infected by COVID-19. More than 170,000 Americans have died.
And it's probably much more like 200,000 at this point. Not that so much time has passed to that number of deaths, but the official number is like 170,000. But it's the actual number is probably more like 200,000, which is that's like a decent sized city wiped out by this. Now everywhere's had deaths. Outside of, I think Vietnam hasn't had any deaths, but I mean, let's say most places have had at least some deaths. America has really fucked this one. 200,000. Fucking hell. That's by far the largest. And there are countries with much bigger populations than America who haven't had nearly the number of deaths. Donald Trump has actively made this situation significantly worse. Now, is Biden gonna be brilliant in every respect? No. But will he actually listen to some scientists and try and stop Americans from dying? Which, just in of itself, that bare minimum level of like governing competence is enough for me, certainly, to say that actually, again, there's no choice to be made here. You have to vote for Biden because the situation is fucked without that. However much Biden's a garbage bag, the other's a garbage mountain. So, yeah.
By far the worst performance of any nation on earth.
Yeah.
More than 50 million people have filed for unemployment this year.
50
More than 10 million
million
people are going to lose their health insurance this year.
50 million people. That's like a seventh of the population, a sixth of the population of America have filed for unemployment. What the fuck? That's almost economic apocalypse. That's ridiculous. And the Americans still haven't passed fucking relief for the COVID thing. Millions of Americans are about to be kicked out of their fucking houses. The fuck? America really has completely mismanaged the greatest amount of wealth and resource richness that humanity has ever seen to a spectacular level, to the point where Jeff Bezos could end world hunger at the snap of his fucking fingers, and yet like 80% of America lives paycheck to paycheck. The fuck is wrong with the world?
Nearly 1 in 6 small businesses have closed this year. And this president, if he's reelected, you know what will happen. Cases and deaths will remain far too high. More mom and pop businesses will close their doors, and this time for good. Working families will struggle to get by. And yet the wealthiest 1% will get tens of billions of dollars in new tax breaks. And the assault on the Affordable Care Act will continue until it's destroyed, taking insurance away from more than 20 million people, including more than 15 million people on Medicaid, and getting rid of the protections that President Obama worked so hard to get passed.
In case you didn't know, he was the vice president to President Obama. I'm surprised it took 6 minutes to get a name drop. That's fair enough. If I knew Obama, I'd probably drop his name too.
For people who have 100...
I shook Aliada Guevara's hand once and I name dropped her, so you know.
million more people who have pre-existing conditions. And speaking of President Obama, a man I was honored to serve alongside for 8 years as vice president, let me take this moment to say something we don't say nearly enough. Thank you, Mr. President. You were a great president. A president our children could and did look up to.
And I don't know that, because like, I know he's being like honest or whatever. So I don't think he's like lying or anything, but it's just like, yeah, we get it, mate. Yeah, you were mates with Barry. Yeah, okay. Right. Put it in your pants.
And I say that about the current occupant of the White House. What we know about this president is if he's given 4 more years, he'll be what he's been for the last 4 years. A president who takes no responsibility, refuses to lead, blames others, cozies up to dictators, and fans the flames of hate and division. He'll wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. Name, again, it's a point worth making. Name me a dictator Trump didn't get along with, and name me a democratic leader he did get along with. I think that tells you a lot about the kind of support for democracy that this man has.
Every day believing the job is all about him, never about you. Is that the American you want? for you, your family, your children. I see a different America, one that's generous and strong, selfless and humble. It's an America we can rebuild together. As president, the first step I will take will be to get control of the virus that has ruined so many lives. Because I understand something this president hasn't from the beginning. We will never get our economy back on track. We will never get our kids safely back in schools. We'll never have our lives back until we deal with this virus.
It's fucking true. It's absolutely true. Trump's strategy of burying your head in the sand hasn't really worked.
The tragedy of where we are today is it didn't have to be this bad. Just look around.
So true.
It's not this bad in Canada or Europe or Japan or almost anywhere else in the world. And the president keeps telling us the virus is going to disappear. He keeps waiting for a miracle. Well, I have news for him. No miracle is coming. We lead the world in confirmed cases. We lead the world in deaths. Our economy is in tatters, with Black, Latino, Asian American, Native American communities bearing the brunt of it.
See, now that's important. Firstly, when he just having a guy come out and say no miracle is coming. Do you remember the days when American presidents sounded like they understood reality? Because Donald Trump doesn't, fundamentally, and that's, I think, probably the biggest point. But yeah, the fact that he calls out now, he says, you know, people of colour are bearing the brunt of that. Again, is an important thing for an American president to say.
And after all this time...
Do I think he's going to completely cure that problem? No. No, I don't think anyone is going to. Certainly in the short term, that's a big systemic fucking issue. So, just acknowledging that there is a problem and trying to do something rather than just going, oh, yeah, occasionally going, yeah, I love African Americans, and then doing everything you can to shit on African Americans. Again, that Trump policy hasn't really worked for African Americans.
The president still does not have a plan. Well, I do. If I'm your president, on day one, we'll implement the national strategy I've been laying out since March. We'll develop and deploy rapid tests with results available immediately. We'll make the medical supplies and protective equipment that our country needs. And we'll make them here in America, so we will never again be at the mercy of China or other foreign countries in order to protect our own people. We'll make sure our schools have the resources they need to be open, safe, and effective. We'll put politics aside. We'll take the muzzle off our experts so the public...
See, that's, again, an important thing to recognise. Trump has actively tried to undermine the truth in a number of ways. Obviously, there's the whole screaming fake news, anything you don't like. But also, he's actively tried to censor scientific information, be it about climate change, about about a tornado. Do you remember when he did the Sharpie thing? So it went into the state that he said it was going to go into, which it didn't and wasn't going to, or whether it be about this COVID thing. He's actively tried to cover up information and censor people, which is ironic considering apparently if you don't like someone's tweets, that's censorship, that's cancel culture. But actually censoring truthful scientific information is super based. Who'd have thunk it? They're right-wing hypocrites. What a surprise.
Gets the information they need and deserve. Honest, unvarnished truth. They can handle it. We'll have a national mandate to wear masks, not as a burden, but as a patriotic duty to protect one another.
YouTube, are we dead on YouTube? What's happening? I might need to redo OBS because it keeps happening. I don't know why. Did I go down on YouTube? Hello? YouTube? Are you there? Wait for the delay, Kev. Wait for the delay. Joe Biden's speech ain't going nowhere. The Tory party has passed being the party of capital, the party of zombie capitalists. Yeah, basically. Basically. If you've got any questions, by the way, by all means ask away and I'll answer them. Because that's what streamers do or something, maybe. I don't know. Is in a circle of doom. Is it? Oh, fucking cockheads. What point did you hear me get to, people? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to get a line set up, which means I'm going to have to get an engineer in to my fucking house to drill holes and put cables through so it can go from the other room to here. Which will be annoying. God damn you all. Anyway, oh shit. Just dropped my pen. Not that it matters, I'm not writing anything, but I'm playing with a pen. It helps me with nervous energy. How did America fail to learn from 1918? America failed to learn from 2009. The world failed to learn from 2009. That's why the economy isn't any better now than it was then. Anyway. I'm not attacking you, I'm just saying. Anyway, so we're all good. Apparently the internet works. Fuck's sake.
Exception every time. Look, I understand. I understand how hard it is to have any hope right now. On this summer night, let me take a moment to speak to those of you who have
the summer nights. A little bit of grace
lost
for
the
you.
most. I have some idea how it feels to lose someone you love.
Oh.
I know that deep black hole that opens up in the middle of your chest and you feel like you're being sucked into it. I know how mean and cruel and unfair life can be sometimes. But I've learned two things. First, your loved one may have left this earth, but they'll never leave your heart. They'll always be with you. You'll always hear them. And second, I found the best way through pain and loss and grief is to find purpose. As God's children, each of us have a purpose in our lives. We have a great purpose as a nation to open the doors of opportunity to all Americans, to save our democracy, to be a light to the world once again, and finally to live up to and make real the words written in the sacred documents that founded this nation, that all men and women are created equal.
He's added the words "and women," but you get the idea. All men, as in mankind, is created equal. And that's an important point to make again. Okay? Donald Trump has no interest in helping up people of colour. Maybe Joe Biden doesn't at heart, but I think Kamala Harris will force the hand because she will be kind of, at least in part, the actual president. Oh, pardon me. So, yes, so I think life for minorities in America will get, if not necessarily enormously better, not a great deal worse. Which doesn't sound like much, but harm reduction is an important thing.
Endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, my dad was an honorable, decent man. He got knocked down a few times pretty hard, but he always got back up.
He's tempting me to do a Chumbawamba reference, isn't he? He's fucking tempting me, but I'm not going to. I'm bigger than that. I'm not the bull that's just going to charge at your fucking red rag cultural references, motherfucker.
He worked hard, and he built a great middle-class life for our family. He used to say, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I sure in hell expect them to understand them.
I'm not sure
and
what
then
that
he'd say,
means.
Joey, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect.
Actually, that's what people, again, I think that's a really important sort of old school working class. I mean, in America it's called middle class, whatever, but it's a old school working class thing, which I think a lot of people don't seem to understand. Is that the job, obviously you do the job for the paycheck, but the extra added bonuses that come along with that of being able to stand up in your own 2 feet and having as my dad used to put it, if you've got 20 quid in your arse pocket, you stand 10 feet taller. Like you feel like and there's a certain kind of unfortunate capitalist imbibed part of that which isn't great. I don't particularly like, but the feeling of being useful, of having that purposeful drive to do a thing, is really important, and it's a thing that was learned during. I mean, he referenced the Roosevelt New Deal. A lot of that work was make work. Right, some of it was good, like buildings of dams and things that are actually really important infrastructure, but some of it was just fucking make work, digging ditches and shit. But it doesn't matter. It gives people a purpose and a sense of self-confidence and worth, which gets destroyed. I've not had huge periods of unemployment in my life, but the periods of unemployment I've had have been soul-destroying. It's really unpleasant. It hurts you mentally and physically. It fucks up your sleeping patterns, all sorts, right? It's a hugely damaging thing. So actually just having a job and having the opportunity for jobs and stuff gives you a sense of enormous self-pride, which gets lost. Entire communities get laid waste. You end up, you know, in a really bad personal place and a really bad societal place when you have endemic unemployment. We're seeing that here in Britain with a generation of people who unfortunately have come to be, I mean, it's often referred to as the underclass, but that's an enormously classist way of looking at it. I think that's a disgusting thing. But there's a certain kind of induced, almost societal coma which people get into when they have that long-term unemployment and they don't see a way out of it. You become almost apathetic to life, and that's not a healthy place for an individual or a society to be, to have its young people in that state, or to have anyone, but young people especially, because they're supposed to be like the powerhouse of the economy type thing. So actually bringing that point up is genuinely important, and I think goes under felt in many respects.
It's about your place in the community.
Or
it's
under,
being able to
not under felt, but under analysed, under talked about.
In the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. I've never forgotten those lessons. That's why my economic plan is all about jobs, dignity, respect, and community. Together we can and will rebuild our economy. And when we do, we'll not only build back, we'll build back better. With modern roads, bridges, highways, broadband, ports and airports as a new foundation for economic growth, with pipes that transport clean water.
See, if he follows through with any of this public works project that he's discussing here, like, that would be amazing. That would be a really useful thing for the American people, and indeed for the American economy. But there we go. Do you think you'd stream your D&D on Twitch? Oh, hang on. So that's not for me. I don't stream D&D, but there we go.
To every community, with 5 million new manufacturing and technology jobs, so the future is made in America.
America.
With a healthcare system that lowers premiums, deductibles, drug prices, by building on the Affordable Care Act he's trying to rip away. With an education system that trains our people for the best jobs of the 21st century. There's not a single thing American workers can't do. And where cost doesn't prevent young people from going to college, and student debt doesn't crush them when they get out. With a child care and elder care system that makes it possible for parents to go to work and for the elderly to stay in their homes with dignity. With an immigration system that powers our economy and reflects our values. And with newly empowered labor unions. They're the ones that built the middle class.
Yes. Fucking awesome. Can you imagine Donald Trump actually lauding labour unions? Now, do I think he's a massive fan of labour unions? Probably not. But just that mood music is enough for me to think, actually, you know what? At least they won't go after them. Because, the idea of America as the nation of the free when there's so much restriction on labour unions is disgusting. I'd like to see some of that repealed. I hope he does, but we'll see. But at least giving your tacit verbal support for that is an enormous step forward. Something that a democratic fucking leader should be doing. You're supposed to represent the left, or at least the centre left, you know.
With equal pay for women, with rising wages, you can raise a child on, a family on.
Yes.
And yes, we're going to do more than praise our essential workers. We're finally going to pay them. Pay them. We can and we will deal with climate change. It's not only a crisis.
No. When I say I doubt the good thing, I'm not saying that he doesn't intend to try and do these things. Politics is really, really complicated and messy. When you get into office, there are 1,000,001 forces pulling you in every direction. Also, he's not the legislature. He can obviously have some impact on it by asking his people to introduce certain bills and negotiating with Republicans and Democrats to get the bill that he wants through. But that's not something that's absolutely in his control. So the things that he wants to do aren't necessarily always in his power to do. And there are some things that just aren't realistically viable that you might want to do that you can't do. So when he says, I want to do X, I'm not just doubting that he wants to do X, I'm doubting that there's necessarily going to be the ability to do X. There might be some modified version of X, or it might fail completely. Who knows? Right? So I don't doubt him for the sake of doubting him, although he is a politician, so take everything with a pinch of salt. But I'm saying that there are enormous complexities to the situation that I think sometimes it's very easy, because the human mind works on a much more simple pattern relation thing rather than seeing like the bigger picture. And so it's very easy to think of things like, he wants to do X, he's going to do X or whatever. But there are lots and lots of layers of shit in the way between what your stated goal is and your actual goal. And getting to that place is enormously complex, especially when, if he's facing a situation where the Senate remains in Republican control, which is possible at the end of this, and even if it's not, even if the Democrats do manage to squeak out a majority, it's going to be slim. Getting your legislation through is going to be difficult. Getting the legislation through that you want to get through is going to be even more difficult. You're going to have to modify it and water it down for like Democrats in like purple states who only just won, who realise they can't be like too extreme or whatever. And so saying you want to do X, Y and Z doesn't mean you're actually going to be able to. So I'm not doubting him specifically. I'm saying that the political system is there in many respects to try and reflect a much more broad will than just one person, because it's not a dictatorship. Although Donald Trump's trying, by fuck is he trying, but it's not actually a dictatorship, and neither should it be. But that means that saying you want to do X doesn't mean that you're going to be able to. So that's what I mean by that. If anyway, the person asked the question, so I thought I'd elaborate.
It's an enormous opportunity. An opportunity for America to lead the world in clean energy and create millions of new, good-paying jobs in the process. And we can pay for these investments by ending loopholes, unnecessary loopholes, and the president's $1.3 trillion tax giveaway to the wealthiest 1% and the biggest, most profitable corporations, some of which do not pay any tax at all.
Yes, good.
Because we don't need a tax code.
No, when I say good, I don't mean good that they don't pay tax. Good that he's bringing that up and that he plans to do something about it.
That rewards wealth more than it rewards work. I'm not looking to punish anyone. Far from it. But it's long past time the wealthiest people and the biggest corporations in this country paid their fair share. And for our seniors, Social Security is a sacred obligation, a sacred promise made. They paid for. The current president is threatening to break that promise. He's proposing to eliminate a tax that pays for almost half the Social Security without any way of making up for that lost revenue, resulting in cuts. I will not let that happen.
Good stuff.
If I'm your president, we're going to protect Social Security and Medicare. You have my word.
I hope he sticks to that.
One of the most powerful voices we hear in the country today is from our young people. They're speaking to the inequity and injustice that has grown up in America. Economic injustice, racial injustice, environmental injustice. I hear their voices. If you listen, you can hear them too. And whether it's the existential threat posed by climate change, the daily fear of being gunned down in school, or the inability to get started in your first job, it will be the work of the next president to restore the promise of America to everyone.
Yeah. I think in terms of my Twitch, I'm going to stop using this Twitch beta stream thing because it's shit. But yeah, I'm going to just get like an OBS, maybe a Streamlabs or something, because this isn't working. But anyway.
And I'm not going to have to do it alone, because I'll have a great vice president at my side. Senator Kamala Harris. She's a powerful voice for this nation. Her story is the American story. She knows about all the obstacles thrown in the way of so many in our country. Women, black Black Americans, South Asian Americans, immigrants, the left out and the left behind. But she's overcome.
Yeah, because her parents are one from Jamaica, one from India. She's an interesting mix.
Every obstacle she's ever faced.
She must love cricket. There's no way you can't be Indian and Jamaican and love cricket. Come on now. Which is enough reason for me to vote for anyone. That's not true in England though, because lots of rich people love cricket as well, which is Tory garbage. Anyway.
No one's been tougher on the big banks and the gun lobby. No one's been tougher in calling out the current administration for its extremism, its failure to follow the law, its failure to simply tell the truth. Kamala and I both...
What are we testing in YouTube chat? There are words... What? Leftist words as bad words. Should we test? Democrat, voter left. That one needed my approval. Sinister. What needed approval? What? Are YouTube fucking with my chat? Man's gonna have to have words. Tish.
Both draw from our families. That's where we get our strength. For Kamala, it's Doug and their families. For me, it's Jill and ours. I've said many times, no man deserves one great love in his life, let alone two. But I've known two. After losing my first wife in that car accident, Jill came into my life. She put our family back together. She's an educator, a mom, a military mom, and an unstoppable force. If she puts her mind to it, just get out of the way. She's going to get it done. She was a great...
See, that's quite sweet. That's nice. When did you ever hear Donald Trump talk about love between him and his wife? Because they don't. They clearly fucking hate each other.
Second lady.
Hate begets hate, you know?
And I know she'll make a great first lady for this nation. She loves this country so much. And I'll always have the strength that can only come from family. Hunter, Ashley, all our grandchildren, my brothers, my sister, they give me courage. They lift me up. While he's no longer with us, Bo inspires me every day.
Oh, I mean, it could be an act with that crack in the voice. Oh, your heart breaks for the guy. His son fucking died, man. Jesus.
Bo served our nation in uniform. A year in Iraq, a decorated Iraqi war veteran. So I take very personally and the profound responsibility of serving as Commander-in-Chief. I'll be a president who will stand with our allies and friends and make it clear to our adversaries the days of cozying up to dictators is over. Under President Biden, America will not turn a blind eye to Russian bounties on the heads of American soldiers.
That'll play well. That line alone will play well. I think Donald Trump underestimated how bad that would look.
Nor will I put up with foreign interference in our most sacred democratic exercise, voting. And I'll always stand for our values of human rights and dignity.
That, again, I have to just put up a red flag on that one particularly. The thing I mentioned earlier, that's not going to change under Biden, but, you know, you have to say it, I suppose.
I'll work in common purpose for a more secure, peaceful, and prosperous world. History has thrust one more urgent task on us. Will we be the generation that finally wipes out the stain of racism from our national character? I believe we're up to it.
I don't think you are, but I appreciate the sentiment. I think it's a much bigger problem. Like, I get that he wants to, you know, start that ball rolling, but you're not going to be able to just get rid of racism like that. But I appreciate the acknowledgement of the problem, which Donald Trump never will, and the commitment to do something about it. I mean, just having a black woman on the ticket, I think, is a start. Representation isn't the only thing, but it is a thing. But I don't think you're going to be able to get rid of racism. But again, I realise what he's doing here. I mean, I'm sort of being slightly harsh in a sense, because it's a politician giving a speech. Like, nothing, it's not going to be absolutely on point completely, because that's not how it works, is it?
I believe we're ready. Just a week ago, yesterday, was the 3rd anniversary of the events in Charlottesville. Close your eyes. Remember what you saw on television. Remember seeing those neo-Nazis and Klansmen and white supremacists coming out of fields with lighted torches, veins bulging, spewing the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. Remember the violent clash that ensued.
See, if you ever need to know the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump referred to those people as as very fine people on both sides. I'd still again put the question to Donald Trump as I did on the day itself and ever since. Name me the very fine people that were on the neo-Nazi side, mate. Can you point them out to me? I didn't see any. Whereas Joe Biden quite rightly makes the connection between the anti-Semitic hatred of the alt-right, as seen at Charlottesville with chants of Jews will not replace us and such, to those of the OG Nazis, so to speak, in Europe in the 20s and 30s. Yeah, that's an absolutely apposite connection to make. That's an absolutely righteous point to make. If you ever need a pointer as to the distinction and importance of this election, note that difference between very fine people and they're just like the Nazis. Okay?
Between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And remember what the president said when asked? He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. It was a wake-up call for us as a country, and for me, a call to action. At that moment, I knew I'd have to run, because my father taught us that silence was complicity, and I could never remain silent or complicit. At the time, I said we were in the battle for the soul of this nation, and we are. You know, one of the most important conversations I've had this entire campaign, it was with someone who was much too young to vote. I met with 6-year-old Gianna Floyd the day before her daddy, George Floyd, was laid to rest. She's an incredibly brave little girl. And I'll never forget it. When I leaned down to speak to her, she looked in my eyes and she said, and I quote, "Daddy changed the world. Daddy changed the world." Her words burrowed deep into my heart. Maybe George Floyd's murder was a breaking point. Maybe John Lewis's passing the inspiration. But however it's come to be, however it's happened, America's ready, in John's words, to lay down, quote, the heavy burden of hate at last, and to end the hard work of rooting out our systemic racism. You know, America...
See, that's a really fucking intrinsically important part of what this is, okay? Systemic racism is the biggest immediate issue. I mean, I don't want to seem class reductionist or anything, but I think getting rid of certain other systems as well, like capitalism, would be super awesome. But in terms of something that can be immediately worked on and brought to fruition for people, even because you can ally with people who aren't necessarily anti-capitalist on stuff like that. That is a really huge part of it, okay? Donald Trump stands for the furtherance and perpetuation of racism, whereas Biden is clearly setting himself here against that. Now, you don't have to vote. I'm not going to shame people, but I get quite annoyed by people who take that individualist approach that they don't like stuff about Biden and therefore will never vote for him, even though you're not really being asked to vote for Joe Biden because he isn't really even going to be president. He's going to be formally that, but let's be honest, he's not. You're being asked to vote, I think, here between fascism and not fascism. And I think standing by and doing nothing in this instance just doesn't quite cut it as far as I'm concerned. That's not an appropriate response given the situation.
American history tells us that it's been in our darkest moments that we've made our greatest progress, that we found the light. In this dark moment, I believe we're poised to make great progress again, that we can find the light once more. You know, many people have heard me say this, but I've always believed you can define America in one word:
Penis.
Possibilities.
Penis. You can define it by penis. Oh no, possibilities. Okay.
The defining feature of America: everything is possible. That in America, everyone, and I mean everyone, should be given an opportunity to go as far as their dreams and God-given ability will take them. We can never lose that. In times as challenging as these, I believe there's only one way forward. As a united America, united in our pursuit of a more perfect union, united in our dreams of a better future for us and for our children, united in our determination to make the coming years bright. Are you ready? I believe we are. This is a great nation. We're a good and decent people. For Lord's sake, this is the United States of America. And there's never been anything we've been able to accomplish when we've done it together.
I'm glad he added by if we've done it together bit at the end there, because I was about to say there were some Vietnamese rice farmers you couldn't beat, but that was a pretty divided nation at that point. But you know,
the Irish poet Seamus Heaney once wrote, "History says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme. This is our moment to make hope and history rhyme. With passion and purpose, let us begin, you and I together, one nation."
See, look at the forcefulness of that. That's not the speech pattern of a man whose mind is broken. It just isn't.
Under God, united in our love for America, united in our love for each other. For love is more powerful than hate, hope is more powerful than fear, and light is more powerful than dark. This is our moment, this is our mission. May history be able to say that the end of this chapter of American darkness began here tonight, as love and hope and light join in the battle for the soul of the nation. And this is a battle we will win, and we'll do it together. I promise you. Thank you, and may God bless you, and may God protect our troops.
That's powerful stuff, man. I don't think anyone can deny that. That's really powerful shit. And I think it can be came over from echoing Twitch. Is it echoing on Twitch? Okay, I'm getting rid of the beta thing. I'm just going to start up a new fucking OBS thing. Anyway, yeah, Biden, I think that even his enemies have to, and have, by and large, from what I've seen, outside of the fucking alt-right garbage people, conceded that was a really good speech, actually. He put that together well, his performance was good, his cadence was clear, and his speech patterns were really not that of a man whose mind has succumbed to senility. So that's really awesome. Good for him, and hopefully good for American democracy in general. Some of it was really good. A lot of it was pablum. You'd expect that. It's a conference speech. It's going to be a lot of like, God bless America and God save the troops, and there's no red states and blue states. There's just red, white, and blue states and all that shit. So that's fine. That's kind of you could almost write an algorithm for those bits of political speeches from America because they're really standard and pat. I'm sure Donald Trump will say some similar things in that regard. Whereas lots of things that that Donald Trump won't say that Joe Biden did say. His focus on like social justice stuff about like specifically mentioning that like African Americans and Native people and women have been shit on, and literally the phrase "the knee on the neck" for American history was really good. I thought that was a fantastic phrase to use. Again, he's sort of, as always with these kind of speeches, he's in a presidential campaign, right? So he's sort of always. I mean, pandering has a negative implication, but I don't mean it in a negative way. He's speaking specifically. He's pandering to a certain demographic, right? He knows Black Lives Matter is a big thing right now. There are significant voting Black Americans or African Americans, whatever, make up a significant portion of the Democratic voting base, and so you have to talk to and for and about their issues, their struggles, and so having that there, I think, is really important for those people. But also, I think is important in general because Donald Trump won't do anything about that. He's set himself against BLM. He's blackbagging fucking peaceful protesters, even white mums, for Christ's sake, who he described as like a fake protest or whatever. It's all Soros, isn't it? You know, fuck's sake. Peace be upon him. Or was it praise be upon him? I forget what my own joke is. Anyway. Yeah, so him flagging that up I think was really important. The fact that he genuinely seems to love his wife, whereas Donald Trump obviously doesn't, and I think that might seem superfluous or not superfluous, unnecessary. Superficial is the word I'm looking for. That might seem superficial in a president or like PR shit, but it's actually, I think, really important because someone who's capable of genuine love and affection for other people, I think, makes for a better leader because they can be more compassionate towards people, both internally in your own country and in terms of foreign policy. Whereas Donald Trump is an emotionless husk, a desperately broken emotionless husk, whose wife despises him, whose children desperately seek his attention because he's essentially emotionally abused and manipulated them. He literally said he wanted to fuck his own daughter on live TV. Like, oh my God, it's sick. Anyway, so I think that's really important too. And the fact that, you know, he literally connected the Charlottesville thing to the Nazis, whereas Donald Trump said that they were very fine people. I think there's enough there that can lead us to say that your choices here are not fascism or fascism, and not taking an option or not voting is itself a choice there. Okay, I'll leave it there. Anyway, now before we get going, I was just going to give you a brief update, if I may, on hang on, what's this? Oh, they're just retweets. The Steve Bannon situation, because there was an interesting little clip that came up which could fuck him sideways in terms of his court case. Right. Firstly, this artist sketch here. I know what I'm going to be masturbating to for the next few weeks. It's this. No porn could ever be invented that will be as amazing as this, okay? I don't know that I'll ever be able to get my nut off to anything else but Steve Bannon looking so dejected and fucked up whilst in handcuffs as well and everything, right? It's too beautiful for words. It's too... frankly, I'm nursing a semi just looking at it right now, even though I'm on stream with you, okay? That's beautiful. But it goes beyond that, okay? Where are we? Where's the clip of... Here we go, right. So there's this clip that arose from a speaking thing he was doing in 2016 or something. Let's take a little look.
Welcome back. This is Stephen K. Bannon. We're off the coast of Saint-Tropez in southern France in the Mediterranean. We're on the $1 million yacht of Brian Kofage. And Brian Kofage, he took all that money from Build the Wall.
President Trump's former campaign
took all that money from Build the Wall. Ooh. Kofage, by the way, is a co-defendant in the current case that that Steve Bannon was arrested for.
Campaign chief and top advisor Steve Bannon charged with defrauding hundreds of thousands of donors to build a border wall. Bannon taken into custody on a 150-foot, $28 million luxury yacht.
Welcome back. This is Stephen K. Bannon. We're all...
I have a feeling that that clip might come up again in the court case, Steve. Enjoy. But there was also another yeah, of course he came out, it was a political hit job, obviously, yeah, naturally. He appeared on his own podcast today, and is set to speak at the RNC on Thursday. As if you didn't get the idea that all the president's men are like crooked, corrupt, fucking criminals. And this one is it gets even better. Hang on. This is beginning to feel a little bit Watergate, in the sense that there's like it feels like a swampy thing that's going to there's new avenues to investigate, and it's just going to get worse and worse for the people involved. Yes, I agree, HuffPost, fuck off. See, we're not even in the European Union and we still have to abide by their stupid data protection laws on every fucking website, on every different device. Ah, it's infuriating. Anyway, where are we? Go away. Right. Yeah. So, FBI now probing $300 million media company deal linked to Steve Bannon report. The FBI, which is the Federal Bureau of Investigations, and the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, launched an investigation after investors say they never received verification of their investments, sources told the Wall Street Journal. It's going to play now. Is this going to annoy me with noise? Steve Bannon's fraud indictment linked to fundraising for Donald Trump's US border wall isn't his only legal headache. The Wall Street Journal reports that the FBI and Securities and Exchange Commission are also investigating $300 million investment offering. What's that link to? Let's have a look.
I think it's a very...
Shut up, you cunt. Fundraising at company tied to... Oh yeah, it's... okay, fuck off. For a planned media company tied to Bannon and fugitive Chinese businessman Guo Wengyu. Apologies to every Chinese person. Bannon was arrested Thursday morning aboard Guo's luxury yacht after he was indicted for fraud for allegedly siphoning funds from a crowdfunding campaign known as the We Build the Wall that raised more than $25 million. It's going to cost like 1,000 times that amount, at least, to build that wall, by the way, so just in case. You thought you could literally crowdfund that, you stupid bastards. And this is the thing, right? He probably has. I wouldn't be surprised remotely if he has actually been siphoning that money and whatnot. Although he pled not guilty, so for legal reasons he's innocent until proven guilty, of course. But it wouldn't surprise me. But no, I don't feel sorry in the slightest for the people who gave money to that. Not only because they're racist filth. If you genuinely want to build the wall that badly, you're racist garbage. Go fuck yourself with a razor blade. In Minecraft. Anyway, so yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's siphoning it, but I don't feel sorry for them. They're racist garbage, and they're dumb as fuck. What did you think this was going to do? Do you think they were just going to hand $25 million over to the government? Because this is, I mean, the build the wall thing has to be a government thing, right? Only the government has like the right to build huge fucking walls across states and shit. The fuck? You can't just rock up with 25 billion quid's worth of cement and fucking breeze blocks and just start building a wall yourself in the middle of the fucking desert. Like, you don't own that land. The only people that can really force the hand of the people who own the land, because they've tried this before, by the way, you have to use eminent domain. Okay? The US government has to officially pay over the odds to the owner of the land to buy that land so you can build a fucking wall on it, okay? Your money, you giving money to them, was you essentially, you might as well have burnt it. You might as well have literally burnt your fucking cash. You dumb bastards. So I don't feel sorry in the slightest to the people who actually gave their money to this. Anyway. The quote-unquote volunteer organisation promised that 100% of donations from hundreds of thousands of contributors would go towards building a section of Trump's long-promised border wall, according to a statement from the US Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Bannon pleaded not guilty later that day and was released on a $5 million bond. That's quite a significant bail bond. But anyway, it suggests that they think he's probably, pretty guilty. But anyway. On Wednesday, the Journal had reported the officials were probing the private offerings to raise funds for GTV Media Group. Bannon is listed as a GTV's director and Guo as its advisor and fundraiser in a company fundraising document the Journal viewed. Guo, a wanted fugitive in China, has been accused of bribery, fraud and money laundering, all of which he has denied. Investigators are examining whether GTV or media associates of Guo violated securities laws, according to the Journal sources. Soon after the investment offering, people began demanding refunds, saying they had never received documentation verifying their investments, the newspaper reported. So basically, they could just steal their money. If you've got no way of proving you invested in this company, how do you get your money back? Anyway, JP Morgan, Chase and Wells Fargo have already frozen accounts tied to the money raised in the operation. That's not suspicious on their part, is it? That's not suspicious for Guo and Bannon. These banks have gone, yeah, let's just freeze these accounts, shall we? Yeah, okay. The British Columbia Securities Commission, so that's Canada, issued an quote, investment caution, unquote, in May after Canadians purchased shares from GTV Media Group Inc. It warned that company officials, quote, have not registered to sell commissions in British Columbia and have not filed a prospectus with the British Columbia Securities Commission, unquote. Fucking cowboys is what they are. They're absolute cowboys. Total fucking frauds and hucksters. Why anyone would give... Again, people who've given money to this venture as well are also idiots, and I don't feel sorry for you. Crimes may have been committed against you, but to be honest, it is sort of still your fault because you're an idiot. The alert added, we urge BC residents to exercise caution when dealing with companies that are not registered to issue shares. Neither Bannon nor Guo responded to requests for comments from the Journal. A fundraising document reviewed by the Journal said GTV would be a platform for news, social media and e-commerce. So just, Trump wank. And would serve as the, quote, only uncensored independent bridge between China and the Western world, unquote. The document named Amazon, ByteDance's TikTok, and Tencent's WeChat as expected competitors. Which is interesting, isn't it, that Donald Trump just closed down is trying to close down TikTok in America, which is the direct competitor of the thing that Steve Bannon's doing. Surprise. In the same way that the person in charge of the post office has shares in companies that are competitors of the post office. I think this government might be very corrupt in America. Don't know about you. Earlier this month, Trump ordered the latter two companies, both Chinese, to finalise deals to sell to US companies in 90 days or to stop operating in the US. So again, just corruptly trying to benefit his American rich friends. Oh, noise on the fucking Twitch. What did the Twitch do? Thank you for you subscribed at tier 1. Thank you, Professor. Very appreciated. Anyway, I'm gonna have to turn off that noise thing because that's the second stream in a row that's happened, and it's very annoying. But thank you for that anyway. That's very much appreciated. But
everybody knows. Go ahead.
Hang on. So this is Steve Bannon talking about his arrest.
Not going to back down. This is a political hit job. Everybody knows I love a fight. I was called honey.
Why would they not have done that years ago when that was like actually building the wall was a potentially viable possibility? Because it isn't now. Congress has shown it's not going to give them the money to do that, so it's not going to happen. Which I could have told you at the time. I did, in fact. I said the wall would never be built, and I've been proven correct thus far. But if they were trying to intimidate people who's got Donald Trump's back on this, why would they do that now? That doesn't make any fucking sense. You're a huckster, you're a liar. I hope you go to jail forever. That would be very fun to me. And I hope you go to jail, or get convicted anyway, after after January when Biden becomes president, because he won't be pardoning you. So yeah, we'll wait and see on that. There was something else, wasn't there? Wasn't there another thing? Oh yeah, just to say, Steve Bannon and Donald Trump have been talking recently. So Donald Trump's like, oh, I don't know what it is. Apparently they talked like a couple of weeks ago, albeit only for a few minutes, but they have been talking. There are in communications. So the idea that Donald Trump is in some way not connected in any way to this is obviously ridiculous. Like, this guy was his fucking arch henchman for a million years. Anyway, so that's enough of that nonsense. No, hang on a minute, we need to hide that, don't we? Boom, there you go, back to cultural marks, which is a reference only the Twitch people will get, because I don't have that picture on the YouTubes. No, thank you, genuinely thank you, Professor Rip, for subscribing on the Twitches. I forgot, last time I had like 2 or 3 people subscribe, which was super awesome, and thank you for that, that's genuinely appreciated. But I forgot to turn off the noise. There's like a little diddle-ding. I don't know if that does that show up in the Twitch stream itself. Does that noise appear? Not appear, but does the noise happen audibly for you as it does for me? I don't know, but I genuinely appreciate your subscription. It's very, very pleasant and very genuinely appreciated. Thank you. But it makes a little noise and it's very distracting for me because I'm sort of like a crow. If I see the shiny thing, it's like, so if I hear the shiny thing, it's even worse. What's that? Keep stopping. Oh, does it? Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna have to get it wired up. No, I tried the Wi-Fi extender. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help. But what I'm gonna do is get a fucking engineer in to come and drill like holes in the. My brother told me to do this. He knows all the tech shit anyway, and he said get one of the tech engineer people to come in and drill a hole in the ceiling, and then they'll pass the wire up, and you can have it in any room in the fucking house as long as you tell them you want it in that house, in that room, so I can get the direct wire into the thing. Because it was when I have my wire in downstairs. For previous streams, it hasn't done this, so clearly there's like an issue where every sort of 30 to 40 minutes or whatever the internet goes a bit dodgy, because the internet connection is shit here. It shows up in Twitch and YouTube because your Twitch mic doubling all sound. Oh yeah, because I've got that makes sense though, because I had to have the desktop audio on for the videos, so the fact that I've got the Twitch beta thing open means that will show up in my OBS and go out on YouTube because it's on desktop audio sound, which is, fair enough. Anyway, we've already watched the dodgy parkour videos, by the way. We did that before we started today, me and Christy, so a lot of fun there. Anyway, yes. Where are we? That's Prime Gaming first. Hang on. No, I'm getting lost with my fucking thing. Anyway, so yeah. As I've said before, as I said at the start, I will be doing this every weekday. Now, I haven't discussed this with Christy, but it doesn't actually change anything in terms of what we do in terms of the happy hour, because when we're doing a happy hour on any specific day, that will be the stream I do that day. So I'll just broadcast it then, if that makes sense. So that's fine. That doesn't change anything. But obviously, I hadn't discussed that with Christy before because it doesn't need to be discussed particularly, if that makes sense, because it doesn't change it. So I'll be doing Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays for the next at least few weeks whilst I'm on hiatus from work because of the COVID thing. I'm on 2/3 wages, which again, if you have money, this is shameless e-begging, I suppose, but needs must when you're about to be fucking penniless. I'm not literally about to be penniless. Don't get like what's it called? Guilted or whatever into giving me anything, okay? I'm not on the verge of bankruptcy or anything, but money is getting tight. So if the PayPal's below, the Patreon's below, you can go and subscribe to me on Twitch and give me money there if you want to. Because I'm on 2/3 pay because of the furlough, but because of the furlough at the minute I'm not at work, so I'll be doing Mondays through to Fridays, both on Twitch and YouTube, and see if that does anything. It's something to do if nothing else, even if it doesn't turn into like a career or whatever, because I've never planned on doing the internet as like a thing to make money. But even if it doesn't do that, it's something to do. It gives me something to actually plan and work for and then do at a certain time. It gives me a structure to my day, which I need because I am working class as fuck and I can't be just unemployed or whatever. As previously discussed, you need a rhythm to your life. You need a purpose to do shit. You need that. It gives you a certain amount of self-confidence and dignity. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch and YouTube Mondays to Fridays for the next few weeks at least, and hopefully you'll join me. It'll be 7 PM UK time, which is 2 PM on the east coast of America, which is, what's that on the west coast? 10 AM on the west coast. So if you want morning hijinks on the west coast, join me at then. But no, there'll be time changes because daylight savings time annoys me. And I didn't realise this before I did like streams and stuff, because you have to know what time it is in different places. For 48 weeks of the year, we're 5 hours ahead of East Coast time. For 2 weeks of the year, we're 6 hours, and for 2 weeks of the year, we're 4 hours, because they don't do daylight savings time at the same day, because that would be too simple and too straightforward and convenient. So, but anyway, who cares? Yeah, I'm basically done at this point. I need to find a way of having like a cool sign-off bit, maybe even some cool music outro bit or something, but I don't have that for now. So in lieu of that, I'll just say thank you all for listening and watching. No pass around.